my cat is probably a tough guy hardcore. My
Oh,
my
I see.
cat is a fan of Trapped Under Ice and Bulldoze and Raw Deal. And then my other cat is more of a Promise Ring type person. Or to bring it to our current band, what's a current band that's um man, I'm so out of the loop. Ironically.
And yeah, I think we're ready to go.
Okay.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. I'm sitting down with the man who needs no intro, no hype lead in, no nothing like that. Carlos from No Echo. Thanks for joining me on the show today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
For like the one person at home who has clicked on this video or podcast and they're listening who doesn't know who you are or the platform that you run, can you just give me a little proper introduction if we were sitting down for the first time?
Sure. Well, I run a site called No Echo, and it is a site that covers hardcore metal and everything in between. That's kind of the tagline I use to describe it to people because I think it really encapsulates what it's about. We It's mostly hardcore, and hardcore means different things to different people. As I get into these arguments, sometimes not arguments, people remind me, "Oh, that isn't hardcore. That's metal, or that's this, that's that," and I tell people I've been hearing that argument since I was a teen, first getting into this in the '80s from older people. They would say, "Oh, um, leeway isn't hardcore. Um, the abused is hardcore," or whatever it was back then. So hardcore is is using that genre tag is can be tricky sometimes for people. But I think if you go on the site, you see that there are so many different styles, and we cover all of them or try to. We also cover bands that are maybe more, um, let's say, melodic, shoegazy, alt rockish, but come from the hardcore world, whether they're musicians from bands doing side projects or bands, let's say like a band like Hum, who a lot of people from the hardcore scene, especially these days, love. So bands like that, we cover that. And yeah, and metal. Not so much straight metal, because I feel like there's so many other sites that do that and do it really well. And
Yeah.
you know, quite frankly, you know, I'm trying to give, or we're trying to give. I say we because there's contributors that help me so much. We're trying to give kind of a bulletin board kind of experience for fans of this kind or these kinds of music. You go on the site, here it is. Here are some new things. Here are some old things. Here's some things you might not know about that you should know about,
Mhm.
or might not know about, but would really appeal to you. So it's not a website where it just reflects what I'm listening to at all times. Definitely not. Um, it's about having a place to amplify. Here is what's out there, and you decide. Many of the bands we cover, labels we cover, don't get a lot of coverage on the metal sites or the punk sites or whatever. So it's nice to offer an avenue for them to get the word out.
Yeah,
In,
yeah,
in,
and
these, in this day and age, it's so hard because there's so much noise.
yeah, yeah. We live in a very I would say great time as far as the amount of output of music,
Yeah,
as well as the accessibility and not having to dig through a record store to find those gems. Before we
exactly.
get super into it,
Yes.
the aspect of this show that I'm trying to integrate all my passions together is just doing a bev check before this podcast
Okay.
officially begins. I'm just drinking a regular LaCroix boy, nothing fancy. Um, every person that I tell about this new section of the podcast, it's just like, whether it's water and rocks or if it's something super fancy that you got the organic store, I'm all for. So
I
we're just
I'm drinking
staying hydrated today.
just regular water with ice that's melted in the California heat. I was outside in the backyard before this on a call, and it melted.
Yeah.
But before that, I start my day off with cold brew that we make at home
Mm.
for the most part. Especially now, since we're not on this grind of going out and driving the kids to school and work and all that. So we're staying in a lot, so we're making the coffee at home.
Hmm.
I got one of those pressing thingamajigs,
Yeah.
and I like just cold brew with some oat milk, and that gets me going. And then I have another one later in the day when I'm starting to,
Yeah, the 2 p.m. nosedive. I feel that
yeah.
every single day.
Mhm.
But Carlos, I'm really excited to be talking about No Echo with you. But
Yeah.
how I start all of my podcasts, because I'm a firm believer in context and the history behind how you and I arrived at this moment together really matters. So take us back to the 80s on when you first started listening to music and how you discovered early punk and hardcore. I feel like the types of bands from bands that I first discovered as far as being a lot younger than you are,
Mhm.
is going to be kind of night and day difference, but I think that'll be really important to kind of set the stage.
Yeah.
So take it away on kind of like the origin story for you.
Sure. For me, the obsession with music started really young. Um, I had older, I had older family members, a cousin specifically, who is, I think, like 7 or 8 years older than I am, which is very significant when you're 4 years old.
Right.
And he was a huge fan. He was a drummer already at that age, and he was into what is considered classic rock now. Back then in the '70s, it wasn't. It was current,
Right.
but so he was into Rush. He was into um, Styx. He was into Triumph. He was into that kind of arena rock and kind of proggy rock. So that kind of got my juices flowing because my he used to his family used to babysit me,
Okay.
so I think that started there. I was really in tune with the radio at the time. This was the late '70s, so it was a lot of disco, a lot of soft rock, Eagles, that kind of stuff. So I was always listening to the radio, uh, and really, when you're young, you don't really care about or know about the specific genres. You just listen to what's on the radio. At least then, and it was just I would fall in love with a song. The obsession started with Kiss,
Oh, okay.
and once I discovered Kiss through my friend's older brother Johnny, who was old, he was already in his teens. I was 5. Uh, it was first the visual aspect of Kiss, which is so strong. And it's as a 5-year-old, it was like, whoa, they're like these superheroes,
Hmm.
but they play music that's really catchy. Two things I loved even then. So right, so it started there. Kiss is a band that I know I'm 45, so a lot of people my age, and especially a few years older, share that same story. Kiss was the first band. That was the first thing. I know for younger people, my wife is almost 8 years younger than I am, and not into hard rock or metal. She finds Kiss it's unbearable, and she thinks it's like, oh, this is so like corny. But we've I've talked about it for the years with her, about Kiss so much. She
Yeah.
got She went to a show and she had a great time. So she got it in that kind of level. But
Sure.
I know that uh, age probably comes into play with Kiss. I get that,
Yeah.
but that was the band that really got me into the hard rock side of things, and then it was all over after that. It was uh, through that uh, friend's brother Johnny. He worked at a record store, so he'd come home with promos back then. So I was listening to Cheap Trick. I was listening to Angel. I was listening to um, Sweet. all these bands that someone that age, 5, 6 years old, really normally wouldn't listen to. So it was kind of me, one other friend, the same kid's brother, my friend Alfred. We were on our own little kind of island there because most of the kids, even at that age, weren't really into music. They were into Star Wars, things like that, which I was too. But music was already like that was it.
Yeah,
So
it was first at bat for sure.
that was it. I'm not even trying to say that as like I was trying to be cool. It truly was the obsession. And then yeah, from there, as the years progress, you start getting into heavier music, Iron Maiden, and then, oh, what is this? Metallica. Um, and then there's a band that's faster than this. Oh, Dark Angel, Slayer. Okay. Then it starts getting faster and faster, and the vocals start getting rougher. Then it's death metal, and then it's grind. Um, but so that progressed through the years, which is a natural thing for a lot of people like us, right? And then hardcore came into the picture. Probably, I think it was junior high school, and what appealed to me was it was like metal and the aggressiveness, but the lyrics were more street kind of driven, orientated, which coming from New York City, that was something I related to. I grew up in a so-so neighborhood, so I saw a lot of that kind of stuff happening. A lot of stuff. Is that ringing? Sorry, that's
Yeah.
that's our doorbell.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
the,
It's
the
synced
ring.
with your computer, I'm guessing?
It is, yeah. I have
I
it
was
like
like
that. So,
I
yeah.
wasn't sure if one of your kids had like a little chime or something that was
No,
going.
no, the doorbell. So if I'm in another country, I could hear my doorbell ring.
Gotcha.
It's it's just
Technology
it's technology. Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
invading this
So
podcast. Yeah, you keep going.
yes. So yeah, hardcore was it was not just the musical um, uh, uh, the vibe that spoke to me. It was the lyrical and that kind of gritty, you know, kind of thing that to this day appeals deeply. And but yeah, it was through finding it through thrash bands that would, let's say it was like Testament or Slayer or Anthrax. They would talk about hardcore bands, or they would have the T-shirts, and then I say, "What is that?" And
Right.
like a lot of people, you start going backwards. So the other thing that I always mention is really key is it was the right time at the right place. So I was in New York City in the 80s. So it was hip hop was happening for the first time, uh, hardcore, all these things that were really popping off, and I was in the middle of it. And so much so that where I grew up in Queens, a lot of the guys that were playing in these bands, Sick of It All, Gorilla Biscuits, uh, Killing Time, so on and so forth, they were literally from my neighborhood or you know the neighborhood over.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it was really once I got in tune with hardcore and realized what it was, then I start figuring out, oh my God, these guys they're a little older, but they're from here. So
Mhm. Yeah.
that was huge too. So that was more just right place, right time.
Yeah.
So that's the a long answer, but that's really how it started. Having the exposure to this kind of music that normally wouldn't have a kid that age wouldn't be exposed to. I got into it, my ear somehow, something about it appealed to me, and then Kiss, and that was it.
Yeah. Well, I have to commend you for probably being one of the first podcasts in the series that I've done that didn't mention Slipknot being an origin
Well,
band
that's
for you.
age. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but I
what,
think
like,
that
yeah,
is the age gap as far as like, you know, everybody in my like mid 20s to 30s bracket was like as soon as I heard Slipknot it was over. But like
understood,
Kiss
and
was
I get that.
probably maybe the band for you just with that kind of same like high performance, like very visually like stimulating in the
Exactly.
same sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing you bring up about Slipknot being, I see people my age, older, they'll through No Echo and through the social media posts of No Echo, I see kind of conversations and the stupidity. uh, and I'll see like, oh, new metal, these new metal this, new metal that, fuck that, and I always said like when I was younger and I would get the older uh, uh, you know person looking down or making fun of something that I was into. Oh, it was so much better when it's always it was better then.
Yeah.
I try to be, I'm careful about that. When new metal was happening, I was not into those bands. Um, and did I have a reaction to it, a negative reaction? Yeah. Uh, you know, I did, if I'm being honest. But I wouldn't come out and knock someone for being into it. It was just not for me,
Yeah.
right? Uh, Now that said, if I go through that era and the records, there is stuff that is really good. If I just get past the whatever prejudice I have to it.
Yeah.
More importantly, and really this is what I bring it up, why I bring it up. Um, what why does it bother people that someone got into hardcore through new metal? Why is that so uh, important to complain about? Why is that so threatening?
Right.
Um, and the idea that people get really offended because someone likes something they don't is so classic of a stupid argument, and I don't understand that. Uh,
Yeah.
if you don't like it, ignore it.
Yeah.
Slipknot had the thing to deal with that Kiss did, which was they have this gimmick. That's why people like them. No, Slipknot are great at what they do.
Mhm.
And if you listen to Slipknot, even someone who wasn't into new metal, you can't deny how great that band is. Really,
For sure.
right?
Yeah.
Do I put them on to listen? No, my son through the YouTube algorithm listening to music. I forgot what song started. Probably he one day I was playing a Megadeth song in the car. Some one day, and he liked the song, so I'd play it on YouTube, and through the algorithm, Slipknot came up, and all these other bands came up, and one of a Slipknot song came on a video, and I'm like, that song is so good.
Mhm.
Then I'm like, I want to hear that song again, you know. But it caught me in a moment where I didn't have that because as much as I'm complaining that other people do it, I have that sometimes. I'm guilty of that,
Right.
right? And I'm like, man, it's just they're they're great at what they do.
Mhm.
They write. It's really heavy. It's aggressive as all hell. There's hooks in it. All things I like.
Mhm.
So the funny thing is like the look of the band is a huge turnoff to me. But then someone like my wife would say, "But you like Motley Crue, and you like
Right.
this, and you like Poison, and you like bands guys that wear makeup and tease their hair up in the '80s." I'm like, "Yeah, that's true."
Yeah.
But it's different,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Anyway,
Yeah.
new metal has turned a lot of people into hardcore in the younger generations. It is a band that comes up all the time. Even Limp Bizkit, I've seen some people say,
Yep.
okay, which uh, let's not get into Limp Bizkit, but hey, whatever gets you into something, the gateways, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, and breaking all the context aspects of all this is a huge goal of mine to normalize this whatever you listened to growing up and got you to
Yeah,
hardcore. Like
yeah.
no one's given a Cro-Mags or Agnostic Front or Sick of It All record like straight out of the womb. Like we all find
No,
these we all have there's definitely bands that I guess you can argue that have that like gateway from coming from metalcore or from post-hardcore that bring you to the other side like uh for myself like Trapped on Rice was definitely one of those bands I was like okay this is like punk but it's heavy and like the recording isn't like super over the top and
right.
there's a generation underneath me where Knocked Loose is or Code Orange is that band for them so
Yeah,
I'm I am a huge in agreement with you when it comes to normalizing that and not trying to flex your like, oh, I was listening to these
I
bands
know.
when I was a kid.
It it's I find that so insufferable. And I also hate when people, let's say you're young right now and you liked whatever was on active rock radio. Let's say it was, I don't know, what's an active rock? Nickelback. I don't know. What's I'm so out of active rock. Whatever active rock is these days. You know, Skillet. I don't know. It depends on the part of the country you live in.
Yeah.
But one of those bands that people are not cool and but play Monster Energy festivals and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, if you're into that, and then all of a sudden you hear Knocked Loose, and now you're like, "Fuck, this is what I like," and now you're into Knocked Loose. But then in 3 years, in the next 3 years, you start getting into cooler hardcore,
Hmm.
right? And let's say it's a D beat, or let's say it's I don't know, Youth Crew, whatever it is. And then you start saying, "Oh, Knock Loose is hard," like, and you start knocking people for liking Knock Loose or
Start
Code Orange.
knocking knocked loose of
Yeah,
all things.
yeah, or yeah,
Yeah.
Code Orange or Turnstile. The big hardcore bands. I hate that too.
Mm.
All of a sudden, because you've expanded and you've started, maybe even you even like those other kinds of hardcore or bands better than what you got you into it. That's fine. Why all of a sudden then you're too cool for school and those bands are making fun of people for liking those bands? I hate that. I
Yeah.
fucking hate that.
Yeah.
You could say, you know what, when I first got into it, Knock Loose was, I love Knock Loose, but I got tired of it, or I, something about it didn't appeal to me after a while. That's fine, but to make fun of people for liking that is so bully junior high school bullshit that I hate. And I see people my age group that do it, and who are parents who
Yeah,
know better, who have
exactly.
life
Don't
experience.
bully these people in school, but I'm gonna
Yeah,
go on Twitter and tell all these
yeah,
homies that liking these bands
yeah.
is
Oh,
poser.
because they hate let's be honest, most of them have never heard the bands we just mentioned, but they just know that we
Right.
just keep on seeing them on their social media, and they're annoyed by them, and and you know I just find that just infuriating. It's just like, just get over it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's sad to try and play the card of can we just all be adults? Like we are.
Yeah, I know, I
Most of
know.
us are over the age of 18 and have responsibilities, but a lot of people unfortunately get sunk into that high school mindset. The other thing I quickly wanted to share
Yeah,
was you. Uh, the point when you were talking about new metal, like I came to the realization that like I think everyone could like every genre of music if
mhm,
they dedicated the time and energy to like giving certain genres a chance. So like my
yeah,
mom, who is like not into hardcore at all, if she like dedicated 3 months where she was only listening to hardcore, I'm sure she would find one band that she was like, oh yeah, I would put this on, or I like
yeah.
what this person says,
Or a song at
or
least.
a
What
or
is
a
your
song at least. Yeah.
what does your mom listen to? Like, what
Um.
and what age group is she in? Is she
So she's like late 40s, I
she's
believe.
a little older than I am.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
yeah, what does she listen to?
oh man, now I know my mom listens to these podcasts, so now it's like this pressure of like trying to name off her stuff. Honestly, she I'm gonna get like messages from my mom now because now I'm only thinking of like all the Christmas albums that she would play at the
Uh,
house during that time.
so she wasn't like, in the late 80s, she wasn't like, let's say, into like Bon Jovi or Poison.
I would
Was
say
she?
if Bon Jovi came on, like "Living on a Prayer," she would be belting that for
Okay,
sure. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
But she wasn't like, or she wasn't something where you look at pictures, you're like, "Oh, mom, you were into punk. Like, look at your hair."
No, no,
She
no.
was okay.
My
Yeah.
mom sang in church like for years and years and years, so
Okay.
there'd be a lot of like gospel and things like that
Right,
being
right.
played in the house and in the car. So, yeah. Sorry,
I
mom, for
say
not listing off all your favorite bands off the top of my head.
the reason I ask is because sometimes, uh, if let's say I brought up the melodic rock, like in the late 80s on MTV, there would be Dial MTV, which was the call-in show, and it'd be this countdown of the most popular music videos.
Right.
And in 88, 89, mostly it was like Whitesnake, Motley Crue, Poison, those kinds of bands, like what people call hair metal or hair, yeah, hair metal. Um, and there are bands playing uh, in the no echo universe in that world that we cover that can appeal to that kind of bass. There's it's the point you're making. If you just give it a shot, and sometimes it takes a blind kind of thing, no perception of like what they look like,
Yeah.
just playing the song. What do you think of this? Yeah, chances are, if you play enough, people will respond to something in a positive way.
Yeah.
We're so hung up on the visual, and especially hardcore people. Man,
What
what label on?
yeah, what kind of
Oh,
Nikes are they wearing? What
yeah, yeah. Why is he wearing a Slipknot shirt?
Yeah.
If I post a photo and a thumbnail on the homepage, and someone who looks at the headline, whatever, but then they see the photo and one of the guys is wearing a Slipknot shirt or whatever, that will be enough for the person to go, "I'm not clicking this."
Really? That is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Yeah,
had this conversation with people off the record.
off the
Sometimes
record.
it's people from bigger bands from the hardcore world who, we text, and they go, "Oh, that band you posted today." Um, they'll bring something up about it, and sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, that band, uh, that's not hardcore at all." It's the thing I started the conversation with. That's not hardcore at all. So it's even coming from people who should know better. People
Yeah.
from said bands.
Like, let's chill out. This isn't like, Miley Cyrus wearing a Slayer shirt or anything, like, clearly not really
No,
no, like, this is just a random person who might be at a hardcore show.
no, and
Um,
another thing about older hardcore people that play in a band, sometimes they don't know what the fuck is going on with hardcore. They haven't followed it outside of their own shows and their own thing. Selfishly, they don't know what's going on. So I've always been the kind of person that wants to stay on top of what's going on, what is happening. Doesn't mean I have to love everything, but at least know what I'm talking about.
yeah. So, we're already almost half an hour into this podcast, which is
Okay.
crazy on how much we've been
Yeah.
talking, but definitely need to hit on No Echo and
Yeah.
the platform that you
Mhm,
built. So
mhm,
for those who I'm sure most people are familiar, but it's a website that essentially does blog content and features for, like you said, smaller, not smaller bands, but largely in the hardcore metal and everything in
mhm.
between. I was
Yeah.
listening to a couple podcasts leading up to this one just in preparation, and it was pretty interesting to hear on how in the beginning stages you wanted to kind of just have it super open ended and kind of feature whatever you want, but when you kind
Yeah.
of made the switch to only doing, call it, aggressive music, that's
Mhm.
where it really took off. Can you just tell me on
Yeah.
that decision, and did you feel like it was going to
Sure.
go the opposite way?
When we started it, it was two people, me and there was someone else, Andrew, who actually got the site up. He's a developer and you know got it up and running quickly. I mean, we from conversation to having the site up, I think it was a week or two. It was
Oh wow, yeah.
And we're both huge music heads, so we wanted to have a site where we can just cover everything. That's good and bad. Good because it was fun. Bad because you can't find an audience. It's hard. Well, I don't know if you can't, but it's harder to find an audience if you're not a little more or a lot more focused on a specific kind of
Right.
music world. So we did it for a while like that, and it was, like I said, fun. It's great. He didn't want to do it anymore, so he stepped away, and then I made the decision to narrow the focus because I saw that when we covered hardcore, it was getting a lot more traction. And what that said to me was there is a lack of hardcore coverage on the internet on a regular basis. So there are sites that cover hardcore, um, but not um, either they don't cover hardcore as much as the other genres they cover, metal usually, or it's a hardcore centered website blog. but it's not updated on a regular basis.
Hmm.
So I would go looking for new hardcore and see what's up. And sometimes there were blog sites where people were just posting the album to download, illegally, whatever. So I found bands that way. But I would go to that blog 2 days later and it wasn't updated.
Mm.
I do it again 5 days later and it's not updated. So then I stopped going to that blog.
Right.
So consistency was lacking in the hardcore universe in terms of website coverage. So I decided let's focus on hardcore for the most part, and let's keep a schedule of Monday through Friday and treat it like it's a regular, you know, Stereogum or one of those other websites that it's updated constantly. So ramped up, got more help in terms of contributors and word of mouth, Facebook sharing, Twitter. Facebook is by far the best or the most um, powerful tool in terms of getting the word out.
Hmm.
As bad as Facebook is, we all complain about. I'm not even talking about the politics and all that stuff about Facebook. I'm not gonna get into that, but
No.
in terms of like how you have, let's say, 10,000 followers or likes on Facebook, but then when you post something, only like 100 people see it.
Mm.
That's that sucks, obviously. But to even with that said, Facebook still is probably the biggest driver to get new readers, for better or for worse. So yeah, once the focus was narrowed and the consistency every Monday through Friday, sometimes Saturday and Sunday, even depending on time, getting stuff up meant that people were coming, returning every day. What do they have going on today?
Right.
What's new? Love it or hate it. So that's when the site really. So it's been the site launched in 2014. I think in the last 3 years, or I know in the last 3 years, it's really blossomed in terms of uh, a lot of people finding out about the site, a lot of bands and labels coming to the site to try to get coverage,
Yeah.
um, good and bad. Bad is that I can't keep up with it, and there are a lot of people probably out throughout the world who are annoyed because I haven't gotten back to them or something. And as much as that bugs me, if I'm being honest, I don't like that,
Hmm.
but I can't do it. I don't have enough. I don't have enough, as people say, bandwidth. I hate when people say that, but
But no, I think there's a few things to touch on there. The first being,
yeah,
I 100% agree with you on just the content output is almost more important than the quality of the content. Like
yeah,
obviously you want to make stuff that you're proud
yeah,
of, but a lot of people get very um hyper focused on getting it to 100% when 80% is actually like it's good to ship. And that gets into a larger conversation, but um yeah, like I you were talking on a podcast, like there's potentially some evergreen, articles that
yeah,
you could put together, but like, and people do go to the site and search that or find it organically, but a lot of it is just like, okay, someone's hitting the new website. It needs to be different because it's been the same where I'm like looking for live videos of bands and it's like, well, this person hasn't uploaded in like 6 months. So I'm
yeah.
not going to subscribe to them because I anticipate nothing new is coming up. And
That's right.
I've gotten a similar, not really backlash, but people are like, oh, like I like scoped shouldn't be post, like could you guys like post every other day? But at the same time, like I think breaks are important, but at the same time, like people are hitting your channel and there's a reputation that you build with what you do, where people are like, I'm going to No Echo to discover new bands. I'm going to Scope to hear new podcasts, to see Canadian bands, what have you. So
Right.
yeah, can you talk about just that, like how you balance the scales of like keeping content timely, but also like having a good kind of like funnel system to
Yeah.
have
The
that consistency?
the toughest part right now is, with everything else going on, is finding time to do those features that are evergreen, that are usually they're historic type things. They're
Right.
going back in time into some kind of scene or era or band's history. I wish I had more time to do that. The reason I don't, like, let's say I have no echo time. Um, what's happening more and more is no echo time means the time I have for no echo means that I have to do the commitments, which are premieres, which are new records, which are things like that. The contributors are usually covering new things. So it is about being timely. So I'm having less time to do those kinds of yeah, retrospective type things. Those usually do really well. People love nostalgia
Sure.
and every across the board, right? And anything, we love nostalgia. So um, if we stuck to that and did way more of that, there would be even more traffic. But I think there is the point mostly is to get the word out about newer bands, current bands. So so that's why in the last year there's been way more coverage on newer stuff.
Yeah.
When contributors reach out to me, I have two this week. Um, they usually want to cover. They're seeing a band they know, both, or they want to cover new labels or bands that they're excited about that they have no connection to. It's rare that someone will start writing for the site who wants to do retrospective type things. I wish there was, because then it would check off that box where I can't do it right now. I don't have enough time. So if anyone is listening who wants to do that, that's always welcome. I mean, everyone's welcomed, but it would be nice to have some more historic type things. Let's say, Canada, something very micro specific. It'd be like Canadian hardcore, 1990, 1995, things like that. People go ape shit over,
100%.
um, you know, and that takes either really being there when it was happening and it's in here for the most part, or research.
Yeah.
So, you want to get it right. So that takes more time. So I've been saying this for a while now. I would like to get back to do more of that kind of thing myself. But yeah, it's definitely gone more on the spectrum. It's gone way more into covering current, which is great. If it's going to be one or the other, I'd rather it be current, you know,
Yeah.
because that's to me what is good for the community of hardcore to keep new bands. I know people get discouraged. Oh, no one knows about our band, this and that. We're not on one of the cool labels, and I'm not going to name the cool labels because I've done that before, and then people take it the wrong way. But we all know what the cool hardcore labels are,
Yeah.
right? Every era has them.
Mhm.
Lock and Out was one X amount of years ago. When I was a kid, it was obviously Revelation. Before that, before I was into it, there were other labels. So there's always the cool labels of the moment. And if you're on one of those labels, there are people who are blindly just buy it because it's on that label. That's great. But how about the other bands that are not on those labels?
Yeah.
So let's give them a spotlight and then let people decide, you know?
Yeah.
So
You know,
that's important.
yeah, and I think it's very cool on how um that like you said, like the current bands or the future where DIY music is going is almost more important. Um, I don't want to say more important because I do think that there is importance in learning. Okay, like uh, this band is like a, let's
Yeah.
call it like a metalcore band. What are
Mhm.
the actual bands that like kind of
Yeah.
actually first did that style that influenced them, and kind of going down the rabbit hole to discover those
I
things.
I think that's hugely important, and I've noticed in some people from when I say I've noticed, I'm not hanging out with people that are 21, 22 years old.
Right.
For the most part, I don't, I'm hanging out with people my age, my wife. I'm in a different world. I'm not at the DIY a venue when I was, playing shows when I was a kid. I'm basing that on the social media kind of temperature of, the no echo, kind of the feedback, and I've noticed that there are people who are like almost like maybe this is punk rock or they think it is, where they're like, "Oh, fuck that shit from the past and who cares about," and really I've always been the kind of person with any kind of music. I want to know where it came from because it's interesting to see how it developed, and maybe I'll find stuff that is that is awesome I didn't know about. And I don't know. I enjoy. I don't. If I'm listening to a band that's, let's say this, in the '90s, there's a band Harvest, who were we at the time called metalcore. I don't know what people call them now.
Right.
Um, Listening, if I hear a new band that sounds like the Harvest kind of vibe, and they don't even know Harvest, truthfully, not that they're bullshitting, like, oh, we never heard of them, but they really didn't. It's because they found a band. Their influences came from a band that was influenced, that Harvest influenced, or so on and so forth.
Mhm.
I find that endlessly entertaining, interesting in every genre of music.
Right.
And I'm telling you, every single day of my life, even at my age, and at this point, and a family, career, I still discover something new musical, a new artist, or something every day,
Yeah.
every single day. That's how obsessed I am with music. And I'm not even talking about the no echo stuff, which is constant new bands sending me, emails and messages, whatever. I'm talking about just in general. Uh, when I didn't get into jazz music until uh, truly until a few years ago. I appreciated a lot of it through hip hop and that kind of thing. But so now this is this world of music that I could live another 50 years and I still won't even touch the
Right.
tip, right?
Yeah.
So that that kind of discovery um, appetite will always be there for me. So I do think it is, like you were saying, important to know where things came from. That's my own
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I think the balance of the two is important. I
Yeah,
think there's times where I want to throw on all the stuff that was only released in that last month, so I can be like really understanding the new bands and
yeah,
see the new nuances, but at the same time, like going back in time to listen to stuff that was foundational for me, but also like, oh, I know I've seen a million shirts of all these different
yeah,
hardcore shows. I need to actually like sit down and listen to this record from the 90s.
yeah.
Um question on the, on the content side of No Echo, because I think if anyone that knows Scoped or knows me, I'm like very very, if I had to pick a lane, it's video as far as
Mm,
content wise. Like this podcast is audio, but like I, as soon as out the gate, I was like, it needs to be a video platform as well.
yeah,
But I definitely recognize that maybe written content isn't definitely, it's not the call it the most popular thing right now. A lot of people want to see
right.
YouTube videos
Yeah,
where people are reviewing stuff. But back a few days, like not days ago, but many years ago, like written
mhm,
content and blogs and forums have always been around and have been a source for people to source things out. So, how did you
yeah.
just like discover like the passion just for writing and not just like because I struggle with this sometimes where I'm trying to write a caption for something, but I feel like I'm just writing the same sentence seven different ways, if that makes sense.
Oh, that's music, right? When you write about music, you're doing that every day.
Right.
Literally today, I was writing a headline for one of the things that went up today, and I was just like, I couldn't figure out a way to manipulate the words where it wouldn't reflect something that I just posted a few days before in
Mm.
terms of the headline.
Oh, I see.
And I texted someone who I trust, and I felt like knows this specific style of hardcore, and I sent him a link. I go, "What does this sound like to you?" And then he hit me, and it was exactly what I already had said in my. And I'm like, "No, can't do that.
Yeah.
I that's we I that's exactly it. But I just used that a few days ago. Give me something else." And then we got to something where I'm like, "Okay, that's good. I can use that."
Mhm.
So it's rewording. I mean, that's no bullshit. That is, if I can get back all that time I've spent through the years wasting just going, how do I? let's be honest. Like, how many ways can you describe something
Yeah.
when it's going chin 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 chin,
Yeah.
or da na 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 na? It's fuck,
Yeah, you're going
you,
on the,
you lose your mind.
synonyms of, and then you put in
Yeah,
the word and
yeah,
checking
exactly,
through. Yeah.
exactly. And then sometimes you're just like, oh man, that sounds so fucking cheesy.
Yeah.
Like sometimes metal sites are like the miscreants of noise, or like it's like, oh man, I'm guilty of that sometimes because sometimes it's fun, but I try to avoid that, but it's tough. Um, I I've I did a zine when I was a kid. I've always loved writing about music. I, the act of writing is fun to me. It's relaxing, so that's great. The reason we haven't uh, we no echo we haven't really gotten into video is because I want it. I want to do video, but finding someone who's willing to do it with me has been tough because I want to do dream situation would be to make we did one on Scott Vogel from Terror where we went to his apartment and we just did it's like short little kind of like vignette on him and hardcore. I would love to do more of those kinds of things, but it's about finding someone who's local to me here in LA, which you would think, well, we're in LA. There's more video cameras in LA than anywhere in the world, probably, or
100%.
people that right, or
People who are
people that
chasing that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it's finding someone who's willing to do it for free, willing to do it for no money, who just wants to do it to have fun doing it. I think if I could find someone or more than one person, ideally, where I can really make compelling, kind of lifestyle driven, hardcore, not just like sitting in a van or in a bus, tour bus, or, I mean, like just, some B roll, some really pretty looking, shots. I would love, and I've done that. I used to do that. I've done that for a living before. As a producer, I'm not a shooter. I'm not. I can edit, but not to the level where I would feel comfortable doing it. I can edit an interview, and I do that all the time, but video interviews. But I would love to do those kinds of things. So, for example, you bring up Knock Loose. Let's say they're in town, going with one of them into to Venice, and or interviewing them while we're listening to the interview, the audio, but we're seeing visuals, like that kind of thing. Um, I think if we started doing that, we could really get a lot of traction because the site already has a big following, and then we could go on YouTube, and those people could come with us, and I think people would enjoy that because it's again going back to the hardcore thing. Hardcore, it's always like we're like the ghetto of heavy music. Metal bands get like all of the cool bells and whistles, where hardcore bands are, for the most part, there are exceptions, for the most part, relegated to very kind of lo-fi. I want to elevate it. So it's lofty because if I had, let's say, someone like Vans sat with me and said, we want to do video content, we want no echo branding because we like what you're doing, and it gives it some credibility to it. So that's what they're paying for, right? And they gave me a budget. I can do it. Just I can go find someone to shoot it with me, and who doesn't even know hardcore, and we kill it. But that's not happening. That hasn't happened. So there's no. Uh, I spend so much of my time already, which is really translates to money for free on the site, that for me to extend myself to start trying to get that going is just daunting. And that's why we haven't done it. We did it once. I did it with Ian from Regional Justice Center, who's a great director and shooter, editor, but he's too busy. And again, if there's no money, what is he getting out of it? Um, because he does it for a living. But if someone's out there who's watching or listening, and who's here locally, and wants to talk, we can figure something out. I think it's fun. I'm used to doing things for for free, for no money,
Yep.
um, because I love doing it. It's like some people. I always tell people like they go golfing or they go fishing, whatever they do. I like doing no echo stuff
Yeah.
in my spare time. So I would love to get into video. I really would. That's something that for years now, I think that we can do some really cool stuff. So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
and I've heard on like other podcasts you've been on as far as
Mhm.
like no echo is kind of like um kind of your way on being maybe if someone called you like an old head as far as being
Yeah.
in hardcore, but still being connected to like
Yeah.
all the bands and I think that's very cool. I almost think it would be really awesome to see like if you were doing like a live streaming event where
Uh-huh.
people can just like shoot you links to their bands and you can just like give your 2 cents on a
Oh,
live
like
aspect.
yeah, right. Like you mean like a YouTube, like some of the YouTube channels where it's
Yeah, there's YouTube channels, but like you could also do it on Twitch.
oh, okay,
There's
I
like
see. I
a bunch
okay.
of different things
Well,
because I think that's it. There's shout out to like Hardcore Keem. He's like a YouTube influencer who will like he's about my age and he'll react to bands and if the band has like a dirty, sludgy breakdown, he'll just like he has like a dummy in the background. He'll just go crowd kill it in the background.
oh, okay.
I don't see you jumping out of your chair and ripping off your
I'm
shirt.
not that animated,
Yeah,
no, but
right. But if coming from someone who gets fed probably double digits worth of emails of hey here's my demo or hey here's a new record
yeah.
it would be a way that you could instead of trying to push everything to the website it's just another avenue
What you do it.
I would love to make it happen if anyone's in the LA area hit up Carlos let's get some video integration going um
Yeah. Yeah, like, I think video is something that or I know video is something that I've wanted to just really get into, but I'm particular about it. So that's why I've stayed away from it. But I definitely want to and I will.
100%. I feel like this question is absolutely necessary if, for the sake of my audience listening to this and being like, oh, here's a place I can get my stuff featured.
Yeah.
What's the best way to get in contact with you to be featured? And what's the worst way? Because I think I saw on your Instagram where you're like, are you serious? People are going to my private Instagram to message me about some like garage rock band that they recorded.
Yeah, I hate when people reach out to me on my personal Instagram page, which has nothing to do with No Echo, trying to, in a way, I admire it because I get it. It sounds mean, or I don't mean it. It it annoys me, but I get it.
Yeah.
But the reason it truly annoys me is because I have my email in on the No Echo Instagram in the profile, so it's there. Um, on the Facebook, there's contact my name and the email. So it's out there. So, the best way is emailing me, Carlos at noecho.net, keeping it brief. Don't need a ton of info. It's when you open an email and you see just a ton of copy, links and things. Don't send attachments. That's another people still do that. I don't know what they're thinking. They'll send WAV files. I don't want to listen to your WAV file. I really don't give a shit.
Is that
The
also
best
with like
yeah,
the file size capacity for your email?
just yeah, it clogs up
You're like, this
the
is 4 gigs.
space.
All right, I got to delete
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, you delete it. Best thing to do is keep it short and in the subject line, um, well, the subject line that's tough, but um, name of the band. Let's say the band is. Let's use Terror. Let's say Terror was a new band trying to reach out to me. It'd be like Terror,
Terror
L.A.
with
Yeah,
Terror. It's like
yeah,
a
okay,
knockoff terror band.
yeah. The name of the band, where you're from, in the subject line, hardcore band, whatever, and then just hey, Carlos, I play in Terror. We're from Los Angeles. We have an EP coming out. This is our first EP. Here's a link to a song. Looking for some kind of coverage that you can help out. That'd be great. That's it with a link.
Yeah.
Don't need any more than that. Don't need a long bio. Now, once we engage and I agree to do something, then I send them a very bulleted, very clear list of what I need to make that post happen. Photos with photographer credit, which people don't fucking send me, and then I get killed by the photographer. Why are you posting my photos? Which is the last fucking thing I want to deal with is a
Right.
photographer getting mad at me. It's like, go get mad at the fucking band that sent me this shit.
I do
Because
the same thing for this podcast. I'm like,
yeah,
shoot me a live pic. Let me know who I can and tag and credit. And
yeah,
I have noticed that on your side as well for some of the Western Canada bands that you've put on. I'm like, hey, there's Agnes. Here's Cole's photos or whatever. So
right,
I appreciate
right.
that from an archivist
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah. So I said once I replied to the band, to the guy, the girl, about the band, then I okay, cool. If it's a premiere, I'll ask, what date do you need? And then I can work it. If I can't, then I can, how about this date? We go from there. But I send them right away. I send them a list of what I need, clear as day. Sometimes people still don't follow that. I don't know what they're thinking, but you know, okay. But it's that's the best way to do it. Keep it short and sweet. If you want to put in for fans of in there, some people don't like that. I love that.
Mm.
So to be like, here's my name is Scott. I play in a band called Terror. We're from Los Angeles. We're releasing an EP. Would love to see if you want to premiere a song or something uh, for fans of, and then give me three bands. That helps me because truthfully, if it those for fans of three bands, if it's something that I really love, I'll go to it quicker. If it's not, sometimes I'll go, oh, who might like this more? Who might really be interested? It would be Adam, one of the writers, or it'd be Michael, another writer.
Ah, I see.
Like so that kind of helps me too. If I'll send it. I usually don't forward things to contributors because I don't want to bug them. They come to me when they want to do something. It's fine. But once in a while, I'll be like, hey, maybe you want to check this out first before you know, you might like it. So keep it short. Don't send attachments. Just send a link. If it's a private link, you know, as long as sometimes people send me a link and I can't play it because it's private. And
Oh
I think
no.
sometimes I think it's I try to remind myself sometimes these people are not this is their first time doing this. They're not used to and they're just it's just coming from a place where it's new to them, so I try to be patient with that. If it's a publicist, that's inexcusable, or a label. If you're a label person, come on. But if sometimes it'll be private and I'll write back, hey, what is the password, or this isn't, it's private. But yeah, keep it short, keep it sweet. If you can give me some for fans of in there, that's helpful. Get it, some people don't like that.
Yeah.
That's not, that's uncool to do that for some reason, fine. Some kind of descriptor before I click on it helps. We're a youth crew styled hardcore band. We're a melodic hardcore band.
But
Whatever it
not
is.
the we formed in this year consisting of these members. We made our
No,
lots of
the
ways in
bio.
the local like
No,
skip
no.
all
I
that.
I ask for that after. Once we engage,
Yeah.
then I want the bio info because
Yeah.
that helps me kind of piece together a post around it, some kind of context.
Yeah.
You don't need to send that in a pitch email.
Yeah.
The other thing is, if it's from a publicist, I usually don't. I don't read press releases unless it's a band I really love. Honestly,
Yeah.
if it's a press release about, I don't know, whoever, but Terror. Keep on using Terror
Yeah.
because that's
Terror's the
one of my
go-to
girls.
example.
If, yeah, if it's a Terror press release, I'm gonna probably read that. But usually, I don't care about press releases. Um, that's a whole nother story. It's not worth getting into. It's just I've been down that road for many years. I used to write for a living for music journalist. So I part of Noeco is just the more one-on-one personal thing. So if the publicist does reach out to me and it's in an email that's for me, Carlos, this band I think would be a good fit, or the guys in this band specifically asked me to reach out to you to try to get on the site. then that's going to mean something.
Yeah.
So personal, like, it's for me. It's not just some like wide net, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that there was this idea. I think at least when I was growing up, where it was like, oh, like the squeaky wheel gets the grease, but then
Yeah,
like if you're too squeaky of a wheel, people are just gonna throw you out and like never talk to you again or block you.
yeah,
So
yeah,
definitely don't go to anybody's personal accounts to try and like bug them. I think casting that net or not that net, but putting yourself out there and
yeah,
being okay for because you've said multiple times like you have this whirlwind in your life
mhm.
as far as just normal stuff, and then you have this
Yeah.
no echo whirlwind, and it sometimes it just doesn't line up to do something.
Right. It doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my cat in the background over here.
Oh.
It's not that I have someone locked up in the room. It's the cat. I don't have a
Well, now I wasn't thinking about that, but now I am.
it's my cat.
Yeah.
My cat is a fan. My cat I would describe as, my cat is probably, a tough guy hardcore. My
Oh,
my
I see.
cat is a fan of Trapped Under Ice and Bulldoze and Raw Deal. And then my other cat is more of a Promise Ring type person. Or to bring it to our current band, what's a current band that's, um, man, I'm so out of the loop. Ironically, I can't think of it. Who's like a current emo band? I don't know,
Current
but
emo band.
yeah,
Yeah.
what's a current emo band? What's like I can't even think right
Well,
now.
I guess I'm trying to think because emo is very like subjective as far
Oh
as
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
I know, I
yeah.
know. But anyway, yeah. So
um,
my tough guy hardcore cat is here.
yeah, yeah, and
But yeah, you know, the personal account thing and trying to, uh the other thing about it is, and I feel guilty. I'm like, oh, I have to like respond because then I come off like I'm ignoring them. It's a whole thing.
yeah,
My neurotic kind of nature gets sparked by that. So
yeah,
that's another reason why I don't
but
like it.
I do think that there is this element of um asking with expectation just doesn't do anybody favors. It makes you look like an asshole, and then it makes the person who's potentially rejecting you look like an
Yeah,
asshole.
yeah.
So putting it out there, like straight up, when my band was putting out a demo, I shot you a message and I didn't
Mhm.
hear back, and I wasn't butthurt about it because I'm like, I'm sure Carlos has
We never did. We never covered it.
no. We
Oh
could talk
wow.
about that afterwards, but it's not
Okay.
like
Well, let,
you
let's
have to
let's fi-
you have to agree to doing it because we're doing this podcast. But I'm just
let,
trying
let's
to
fix
say that.
that. Yeah, let's fix that. But the thing is too that brings up, like, there are times where even if I intend on getting back to them, like, yeah, okay, I'll get back to this later. By the time later happens, it's 12 hours later, and then there's new emails that came
Right.
through. So then
Yeah.
it just falls to the bottom. I always keep telling myself, like, set up a reminder thing for that, and then I'm like, I already have reminders for other things, so it's just like,
Yeah.
head exploding.
Yeah, and shit
I just
happens.
Yeah.
Like so you featured my friend's band Plead from up here in Calgary.
Mhm.
And I shot the music video for the the debut of that. And I guess um I sent them the download link for the or no, I sent them an unlisted YouTube link on my personal YouTube channel. And then I saw that the post went live, and I guess they just gave you that URL versus
Uh-huh.
like uploading it separately. So I'm like rushing to my computer to like add the description because it just said
Oh
like
wow.
plead music video V3. I'm just like, oh no.
Oh right, the metadata. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, they could have asked me to switch it out, which, depending on what I was doing at that moment, if I'm at a laptop, it's super easy.
Yeah.
Harder to do if I'm remote, but that happens. People
Yeah.
do that
It
all the time
happens.
with videos. It'll be the director will get really pissed off, like, "Why did you send that? That was a review link. That wasn't meant. It
Oh.
was a video link or whatever." Because I know, from working in that world, that like my producing partner, he's a director and it's all about Vimeo. He
Yeah.
hates YouTube. But so sometimes it'll be Vimeo. So that kind of, I'll ask the band or the publicist, this is a Vimeo link, which is fine. Are you sure this is it? Because sometimes directors use this for themselves, but the band wants YouTube.
To preview it and get
Yeah,
approval. Yeah.
Yeah, because once it's up, if I'm not around my computer, it's hard to change, and you start losing those views,
Mhm.
which you want. I get it.
Um, on that topic, is there a no echo drop that just not any fault of your own, but just did not go the way that you intended to, as far as either backlash from people or just like posting a wrong link or getting the wrong files and then the band's upset?
I mean, I've had bands get upset because it was the wrong version of a song.
Oh, okay.
Um, like they'll send me, let's say it's like a, in the initial email, it'll be a song. I play it and okay, here we go. And then we agree to do a premiere, let's say. It's usually a premiere. And then I set it up, it goes live that day. But they either had sent me a newer version, which I've missed, and I just kept the original one, and then they get annoyed. Or I've had that's happened. I've also had where it was like a Bandcamp, private Bandcamp, so only I had the embed for the site. But then I embedded a different song on their Bandcamp,
Oh,
so that's happened.
yeah.
You know, I've never really had, at least to, I'm sure behind closed doors, a lot more happened, but it really wasn't anything where it was like I got killed for it.
Right.
There have been, uh, that's more like clerical or technical kind of oversights, but there have been, if you also mean like controversial type things, really, um, the controversy happens with people reading the articles and not agreeing with it, not agreeing with what the person said in it. Um, oh, that guy is a fucking asshole, and he's not really into, just drama.
Yeah, and you're
Um,
like, I'm literally just promoting this band. I'm not trying to co-sign or any of that. Yeah.
it's there for you to do what you want with it. Now, if said person that is being interviewed is a horrible person who's done really bad shit, I'm not gonna support it if I know about it, or I'll
Yep.
take it down. For example, I included the band Stone, who they were a new hardcore band featuring guys from, I can't think of what band they were
Cross
in.
me.
Probably, yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. I
Yeah.
think Cross Me. For whatever the case, the singer. This was early on in the kind of Me Too thing, and singer was accused of all this stuff, and I guess it was so bad that they immediately, the label dropped them and all that. I included them on a list of bands to watch for the next year. So it's
Ah.
like a very significant post that I know that post is one of the biggest, the 12 newer hardcore bands to watch for in 2019 20. That is the biggest post of the year, because it is evergreen. When people Google hardcore or new hardcore, it shows up a lot, and people want to see what, they want to see. It's all in one post. The newer bands. So there's a lot of curiosity. There's a lot of people going, oh, my band's not in it, or that band's in it. They're horrible. That kind of thing. But so I included that band, Stone. I think they were called Stone,
Yep. Yep. You're
right?
on it. Yep.
Yeah, Stone. And because I think I had like one or two songs. I'm like, this is going to be. I know this is going to connect, and they already have a following from their other bands, and they were on the Pure Noise,
Yeah.
which is a label that has some, muscle behind it for this world. I took it down right away because everyone involved was like, "Fuck this shit." I took them down. So it's a shame, because that was a slot that could have gone to another band,
Hmm.
could have helped another band, but whatever. So yeah, the controversy happens with people, or people, behind closed doors will text me, "Oh, that guy said that." The truth is, I was there.
Yeah.
That kind of shit. Um, but haven't really been in any drama outside of that. People have engaged. I made the mistake of arguing back on Twitter a couple of times, and then think to myself, why am I doing this right now?
Right.
I could be this person's parent,
Yeah.
and I'm getting into some nonsense. Um,
I
so I've learned the hard way. Don't do that. I should know better. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That
I
happens.
I think the overall topic as far as, um, content creators and hardcore and dealing with, those kind of things that come out in light of certain things,
Yeah.
like, uh, there was Stone was actually one of the very first sets that I put on the Scoped Exposure YouTube
Oh,
channel,
wow.
and then when that happened, I just made the video private because I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want that to be something that people are searching for or just to, just output negativity on that.
Yeah.
It becomes this weird thing, and I've talked with Sunny from Hate 56 about this as far as like we're not as archivists, we're not here to like curate your like image as far as things go. So it becomes
Yeah.
this very interesting conversation around like, okay, if a band gets canceled, do we just remove them from existence, or do we need to have those things up there for the shows that they played?
Mhm.
What's deemed as like, like how much do we want to erase people? Because if we erase it, then we forget. And again,
Right.
I don't think, if we go down this rabbit hole, we'll be here for another hour easy. So,
Yeah.
but I do think that there's an interesting responsibility as people who are kind of giving bands the fuel and gas to kind of output it when there's something on the negative side, and addressing those things with care.
Yeah. And what's really great about the the site's kind of the rules I have for the site. I didn't want to post news items.
Yeah,
News
yeah, I've heard you talk
items,
about that.
yeah, are a way to get a lot of traffic, a lot, because people, I'm guilty of it too, even though I don't do it on my own site. You see the headline, it's juicy. I'm clicking on it,
Yeah,
death, accusations, things like that. People, it's clickbait. People love, so sites do it that cover underground music. And if they're being honest, it's because of traffic.
yeah,
And then they might say, well, that helps bring in traffic. So then that helps me do the other stuff. Okay, that's fine. Not judging. I don't want to post news, not just for that reason. I also don't, that's, to post news would mean I'd have to be on my computer constantly, like a, like a newspaper journalist.
right.
So I'm not going to do that. So it wouldn't be timely. And it also, I don't have to talk about that kind of stuff. You
Yeah.
know, I avoid it.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's a little bit of a difference when it's like, maybe the most recent example is Riley from Power Trip passing away, and just
Yeah.
like every metal like
Mhm.
publication is posting about that. But it's
Right.
another thing to like, I've only filmed Power Trip once, but like, it puts me into positions like, can I create a new piece of content that just honors him and his legacy
That's great.
versus
Yeah.
just like, here's my post and how I feel about the situation.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad to see that people just jump to the clickbait nature of things,
Mhm. Yeah.
especially in our space.
Yeah.
Um, well, Carlos, this has been a absolutely great conversation. I've loved every single minute of it. Our kind of chapter end section of the podcast is for you to share a mosh story off the top of your head, and it doesn't need to be necessarily something you did back in the
Mhm.
day or the last show that you went to that someone knocked you out or something. Just anything that's first to your mind is kind of how we end things here.
All the years I've gone to shows, I've never stage dove. I've been a chicken when it came to that.
Okay.
So I've never been a pit dweller. I've endured pits because I've loved bands. I went to, it was general admission kind of thing. I remember I went with my wife to see Nine Inch Nails a long time ago in New York, and I endured like 2.5 hours of being pummeled by people pushing and stage diving, or not stage diving, but crowd surfing. So I've never been good about that. Even when I was a teenager or my early 20s, I really didn't care about anything in terms of thinking ahead about insurance or can I work if I get hurt.
Right.
Even then, I think I maybe went in the pit a few times here and there. I usually I was on the side, of the venue, or far enough just behind where the pit was happening. My the craziest thing I ever saw at a show in terms of pit or moshing or whatever was at a leeway show at Lemoore in Brooklyn. I think it was '89. And I was a kid. I was 14, and I saw a guy with his leg in a cast, crutches on the side of the stage, and I kept on looking at him because he was like bouncing along to the song. He knew someone at the venue, or he knew the band or bands. All of a sudden, he walks up to the stage, and he like just falls on the top of the crowd, and everyone just carries him around, and he's up there for a while, and
Crutches and all, just
everything, just like, you know, just loving it. And the whole time, even at that age, I'm thinking to myself, man, that's so not safe. I'm like ruining it. I'm not living the glory of it. I'm just like, oh, I'm thinking ahead of time. Neurotic New Yorker thing. So I've seen crazier than that. But the reason why I bring that story up is I went to the venue a week later. The guy had a broken arm. So now he has a broken arm and a leg. And I asked someone, I forgot who it was, and they told me he broke his arm that night at the Leeway show.
Oh no.
And he's back again, and I'm like, is he going to break his other leg or his other arm today, or his neck? What's going to happen today? He didn't, luckily, but yeah, that was pre-lawsuit crazy times.
Right, yeah. It wasn't just like, oh, something bad happens to me now, time to drain you of all your funds. But yeah,
Right.
shout out to anyone who's moshed or stage dove with a broken arm, a sling,
Yes.
what have you. Y'all some crazy fools. Well, Carlos, thank you again for joining me on the podcast today. I am a huge advocate for people who have created a platform and are putting on for new bands and not getting caught up in the likes and the engagement and all that bullshit. Nothing but good things to say about you.
Thank you.
Please go to Instagram and follow noechodotnet.net. And then just go on the website and find some new bands to check out. Anything else that we need to send people to?
No, the site, and dig around. You'll if you love heavy music, you'll find something.
100%. And if you are a No Echo supporter, whether you follow Scoped or you just found this podcast through some other means, Carlos's email is in there. And I'm not saying send him your bands. I'm saying maybe send him an email and being like, yo, thank you for doing what you're doing, because that goes a long way.
I got one of those today from Italy, and it made my day.
100%. Shout out
and then
to...
you keep on waiting at the bottom. And by the way, here's my band, and it never came.
Yeah.
So it was. So I actually forwarded that to a few friends. I'm like, this made my day, and they wrote back like, that made my day. Just reading that. So,
do the right thing.
awesome.
Don't sneak in your Bandcamp URL in the bottom there. Carlos, this has been a blast. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Thanks so much.